Hi everybody, hello and welcome. I am just jumping on my Instagram account to go live. So just bear with me a minute. I know, let's just, what's going on here? Right, live. Yep. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome to my live Q&A today. It is a beautiful day and I hope that I can help bring a little bit of sunshine into your worlds. I know that things are, and I know that in week 9, are we, of lockdown now, that a lot of people are finding it even more challenging. So this is what I'm here for today. I'm here to help, to support, to answer your questions, to go through some of the information that I know some of you are struggling with right now, really talk it through. So if you do have any questions, then please pop them in the chat below. I've got a couple of questions from people that have seen these advertised on the Tatler address book, which I am part of. So I know Tatler have been doing loads of publicity for me, which is really very sweet of them. So thank you to Tatler address book for that. Hello 38 degrees north. For those of you who don't know these guys, James and Claire, they run fitness boot camps, workouts. They're doing online stuff. They are amazing. They give loads of tips and advice. They're also known as the midlife mentors, and they do some amazing work. So if you want to check out their information, then do drop it in, James or Claire, whoever's on. Please drop it in your website in there so people can check you out as well, because you're awesome. And I've been on their retreats. They run them in Ibiza, they run them in England, different pop-up retreats. Obviously they can't do that at the moment, but they are doing some virtual retreats, and I am going to be in their virtual retreat on Saturday with them. So you can tune in and get access to those guys and their information on Saturday too, which will be fab. We're going to be talking about relationships, fitness, health, well-being, all those kind of things. They're experts at everything to do with health, well-being, fitness, nutrition, that kind of stuff. So yeah, 38degreesnorth.com. There you go. There you go. So right now, I know a lot of you have been reaching out to me at the moment because you are just suffering with some really big self-esteem issues. I feel it to heal it. Hello, and Nadine. Hello, mwah, mwah. Nadine, do drop me in the text here just how you got on Sunday, because I do want to know. Just let me know. Give me an idea, just a gist. I would love to know. Been thinking a lot about you since we had our coaching session at the weekend. Yes, so a lot of people have been saying that they're suffering from big self-esteem issues from being locked in. Now, I think it's probably going to be some isolation syndrome coming up, because I know how tough it is to be isolated and then have a breakup going on at the same time, because you're just left alone with your thoughts. Okay, so when you're going through that, obviously you're going to overanalyze things. You're going to have time to ruminate and stew on things, which normally you'd be too distracted because you'd be doing a school run, or you'd be doing some work project, or you'd be, occupied with other people, going somewhere, doing something, driving, something that a lot of us haven't really done much of in the last 2 months. So I know that there's a lot of anxiety about going back out into the real world as well, because if you've been suffering from anxiety and stress and heartbreak during lockdown, then actually going out into the big wide world is even more daunting. So what can you do to rebuild your self-esteem over the next few weeks so you feel a little bit more confident about going back out to the real world? And I know a lot of you are saying your breakup, I know particularly some people have emailed me to say that their breakup has happened during lockdown. So they've never been out in the real world as a single person for many, many years, one person for over 30 years. So now she's saying that when she comes to go out into the big wide world and get back to whatever the new normal is, how is she going to do that? Because she doesn't know. Well, I think there is some good news on this, is that everybody's nervous. Whether you've gone through a breakup or not, we're all a little bit nervous about going back into the real world, because we don't know what it's going to be like. We've got no certainty and we've got no clarity on exactly what it's going to look like. I mean, in fact, there's so many confusing messages out there that nobody really knows. So I think, first of all, to accept that it's normal. It's really normal to be anxious at this time. So there's nothing wrong with you for being anxious. It is completely okay to be nervous, because it's your body way of protecting you. And there's being over nervous for, when you let your mind spiral out of control, and that's what we need to take control of and potentially dial down. But there's having an acceptable level of discomfort, because we all have a level of discomfort right now with the things that are going on, because we've got no certainty. And as human beings, don't we all like to know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen most of the time? You know, birthday surprises and that kind of thing. Someone turns up with a bunch of flowers, a bottle of champagne. Yeah, we can handle those kind of surprises. But am I going to be okay, or am I going to get the virus, and how badly will I get it if I get it? That's a whole different level of uncertainty. And that's normal. And that is designed to protect you. So our bodies have a built-in protection mechanism of making us anxious about things that we should be anxious about, because we need to think it through and take precautions. And so that's what I'm talking to you about, taking your control over these things. If you can take the precautions, then that should dial down some of the anxiety. So what we do is, number one, we identify what you're most nervous about. Now, Jane, in her email to me, has said that going out into the real world, having been dumped during lockdown, and her husband left, and he had a flat that he had already set up unbeknownst to her. So he has since left her and gone to live in that flat during lockdown. But it's a big surprise to her. But obviously for him, this is something he'd been planning for a long time. So she's reeling from that, obviously. And after 30 years of marriage, there's a lot of shock. Although she does say that, you know, things hadn't been great for many years, but because they've reached a certain age, she just assumed that they would carry on. The interesting thing is, if you look at the stats, you know, over 50s now and over 60s, it's an interesting shift in that silver splitters, what they're called, they will, the silver splitters are the only category where marriage rates are going up. So most people in most age categories are not, the marriage rate is dropping. People are seeing that cohabiting is another option, or they don't want to tie the knot, or, you know, there's a lot more people being single and happy with that too. So it's interesting, isn't it? This idea of being sort of together forever is not such a, and tying the knot and getting married isn't such a strong one, apart from one category, and that's the over 50s, the silver splitters, and that is happening. And I think from the clients I've seen and the research that I've done, one of the things that I've noticed with those clients is the fact that, you know, 50 people are still super fit and healthy, which maybe, you know, 25, 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. You know, maybe other generations, by the time you got to 50, 60, were sort of slowing down. Whereas now what I see is fit and healthy, but they don't necessarily have the same pressures and money, because maybe they've retired or they've got to a certain point in life where they know, you know, they're not working as hard as maybe they did in their 20s and 30s. So they've got a little bit more sense of financial security or ability to cope with that pressure. They don't have the ties of children. Also, when they're dating, they're not putting pressure on each other to go to the baby Gap shop via the ring shop. You know, it's a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more for them, for fun. So you have more time because you don't have the kids. You don't have to do the school runs usually. You know, most people in their 50s, 60s, their kids are a little bit older if they have them. So they've done all that. There's no pressure to have a family and start settling down, or the clock ticking. Tick tock, tick tock. Come on, Bridge. If you know that. That's from Bridget Jones, if anyone knows that. That scene, brilliant, where she goes to a dinner party and she's the only single person and everyone's in couples, and they say to her, Bridge, aren't you worried you're single? Tick tock, come on, Bridge. And she's like, oh my goodness, it's not my fault I'm single. It's a brilliant movie. I'm sure most of you have seen it. Yeah, have you seen it? Do you know that? Or is it just me? Yeah, so I think if you have the over 50s, and now there's a lot more hope. There's dating apps just for the over 50s. So it's all good. So also there's a change in mindset that, you know, when you go through a divorce, yes, it's tough. Yes, it's hard. And you kind of have to kind of come out of that. Sorry, someone's calling me. You kind of have to come out of that to then move forward. And the interesting thing, I guess, is that when you do start to come out and start to see, right, I've got a choice, don't I? I have a choice after my breakup, whether I'm going to stay where I am and feel sorry for myself because it's been really tough, and it has. And I've been through some really traumatic moments, and my heart's been broken, and I didn't see it coming. And maybe there's another person involved, which has made it even more difficult. So all that's going on. So you can either stay focusing on that, or you can say, okay, I can't change this, so I'm going to have to accept it. But the only way to accept this is happening is to create a more compelling future. And that's what I see in the over 50s and 60s. I see that, right, you know, I've got 40 years left to live or whatever. I'm going to make the most of it. Now I don't have all that baggage of young kids and, work commitments and, self-sacrificing for my whole family. Now it's about me. So how can you do this? How can you shift your breakup around and make your life more about you? I know some of you, like Nadine, have got young kids, so I'm really glad it went well for them. And I'm really super glad to see that it went well for them and you're coping well by playing happy songs around the house, which is something I always recommend, whatever that is for you. For my ringtone is Happy by Pharrell. And I think that even if it's setting your life up with little tools that interrupt your normal pattern, because if you have to think about it to make it happen, then sometimes if you've been doing this for a long time, maybe 30 years, you'll go to that same old way of thinking. So by setting up things like a ringtone, Happy by Pharrell, that you can download onto your phone, you don't know when your phone's going to ring, but as soon as it rings, boom, that's going to change your state instantly. So it's about setting things up that keep you on track or remind you to get back on track if you're having a tough day. So that's good. And I remember once when I was going through my divorce, it was really difficult and I was finding it really hard. And I remember I had to have a handover for my son. His dad was there and came and we did the handover. My phone went off and it was Happy by Pharrell. And it was one of those things where it was a really tough moment. I'll never forget it. His face was like, oh, okay. And I laughed because it's quite funny really, but ultimately it was for me. And I want you to set up things for you that mean something to you, that can interrupt your pattern and empower you in a heartbeat. You can change your state in a heartbeat, just by shifting your shoulders back or putting a big grin on your face. Or like we said yesterday, doing a fake laughter will actually change your states. You totally have to commit to these things. And you might look like a woolly. And a lot of the stuff I know I do on here, you probably say, yes, Sarah, you're a big woolly. But it's okay. You've got to be comfortable with who you are. And ultimately, your self-esteem, you've got to accept that some people aren't going to like you. Some people aren't going to want to be your friend. Some people are going to think you're a bit of an idiot. Some people are going to love you. Some people think you're great, you're fantastic. There's going to be all kinds of reactions to whatever you do, especially if you've got an opinion or you put your head above the parapet, or for example, you do what I do. You don't do it to make you don't do it to be liked by everyone. You do it because you're you and you do your best. And that's all you can do. So when you go back out into the real world, it's important to be focused on the fact that you're going to do the right thing by you. You're doing your best and your best is good enough. And you're just great the way you are. We all have strengths, we have weaknesses, and you can work on those weaknesses, absolutely. But you don't need to change yourself to make other people like you more. You've got to do it for you. And this is what the shift in focus after a breakup is all about. And rebuilding your self-esteem is about understanding what makes you happy and how you can be okay and comfortable with just being okay with what makes you happy. It's about pleasing everybody because it's impossible. People that set themselves impossible targets, like for everyone to like you or for everyone to be happy all the time or for your family to always be okay, that's up here, that's 100%, that's perfection. But again, reality comes in here. So what's that gap again? That gap is disappointment, hurt and pain. So what we want to do is set your expectation, or set what you want to, expectations or reality up here. Because when reality comes in, hopefully the gap won't be too big. Always, obviously, push for a little bit more than is possible because that will help you raise your game. You don't set goals that are easy because if you do, well, you'll never push yourself out of your comfort zone enough. So, you've got to push for what you want in life, but don't make it perfection. Because if perfection is your goal and what you think you need to be happy or feel good about yourself, then can you see how that's a recipe for always being disappointed, for always feeling less than, for always not achieving your goals, for always being a failure in your mind? Do you see what I mean? So we've got to be really consciously aware of how we're setting those goals and making sure that they are achievable, or maybe, very almost achievable. So when you get to here, then there is just a bonus. So again, it's about controlling this. You can't be perfect by everyone, and not everyone is going to like you. You may have put on weight. I know that's one of Jane's issues here, that she's put on weight in lockdown because her way of coping was just to eat. And she had a little bit of a weight challenge anyway, but she had it under control, and then she sort of let it all go. But I can tell you now, a lot of people have been eating more because you're at home, and 3 meals a day is what kind of you've got to look forward to, right? So please don't beat yourself up on things that have happened in the last nine weeks, because these last 9 weeks have been unprecedented and put us all into huge amounts of stress and anxiety for different reasons. And we all have our own different coping mechanisms for dealing with that. And Jane's is one of them, is eating, and not healthy foods. You know, if she was eating lettuce, that might be a different thing, but she's not. So that's okay. Please don't beat yourself up. You know, any weaknesses or Achilles heels that you had before will be accentuated during this time. Like if you were a crier, I've got a friend who cries a lot. During lockdown, she's crying a lot more. I've also got clients who have panic attacks, and they've been having a lot more panic attacks during lockdown. It's normal. It's the way, it's your coping mechanism. So unless you consciously have changed that or work with a coach like me to look at that and find a replacement for it, because remember, you can't just stop having panic attacks. You can't just stop triggering those negative emotions. You can't just stop crying unless we give you another way to deal with it. Now you can choose that. It might be, I'm going to cry for 5 minutes instead of an hour, and then I'm going to do 5 star jumps, put a smile on my face and try some fake laughter. Or it might be I'm going to phone my mom or my friend, or, you know, whatever it is for you, but we have to swap it for something. So what I'm saying is it's okay for your normal Achilles heel, your normal sort of weaknesses in life to come up and show up now. Now, that doesn't mean that this is a permanent hit on your self-esteem. This just means it's your way of coping through this tough time. And when we get out of this, then things can get back to normal again. And you can lose the weight, and you can do those things. And you know you can, because you've done it before. And you can rebuild your life and go on. Now, going back out as a single person after 30 years is actually a bit scary. I get that. And that's normal to be scared because you've not done it before. But we have to think, is how can we make it less scary for you? So asking yourself a better question, what can you do right now, Jane, to make it less scary for you? Do you see how we're changing the focus a bit here? We're changing the focus from it's scary, I'm worried, I'll put on weight, people are going to look at me and say, oh, she's changed, or she's not reacted well to this, to, okay, well, what would make it better? You know, I know that you said you started walking now every day. So that's great. So that's great. So let's follow through on that, and let's keep going with that, and maybe build on that to maybe going for a jog, or, you know, going for a power walk where you move your arms as well, or playing happy music around the house to shift your state, learning how to get yourself from sad to happy just by shifts of your body language. All this stuff, by the way, the actual techniques of how to do it in detail are in both of my books, Uncoupling and The Split. Both of them are available on Amazon, and The Split is available for £1 as a Kindle version at the moment, just so that you guys can get as much information as you need. Okay, so Nadine is saying, I Am What I Am by Gloria Gaynor. Excellent. My neighbour has just bought me Bluetooth headphones. Brilliant. Your neighbour sounds lovely. Right, okay. I'm ready for life as a single woman. However, my ex is refusing to settle. I'm trying desperately to be positive. However, it's a challenge when someone has the power to hold your life. Aha. Please don't give your power to them. They may try to do things, but what we have to do is just kind of put our hands out and just let them flail around, but they can't get to you. It's almost like when I talked about zipping up your Teflon suit. Just physically zip it up. So you can still let goodness out, you can still receive goodness, but any of that nastiness is going to fall away. See, the thing is, you can't give your power away. He may try, he may not settle. I agree, that is very difficult. And I have a lot of clients in those situations where one just wants to get done and move on, and the other wants to cause trouble. That's very common. So you're not alone. And I know how it doesn't mean it's any easier for you. I know that, but having been there, I know how difficult those things can be. So what I would say is that it's important for you to focus on what you can control, not what you can't. And that's how you don't allow your life to stop. You see, they can't control everything. You might control that one thing, but, you know, ultimately you can still connect with your friends. You can still do other things that are important to you. I guess if it's finances, it may mean that you can't, for example, move house or have the lifestyle that maybe you want to have right now, but there are other things that you can do in the meantime. So and I understand there will be some things that physically may be stopped by it, but I want you to get clear on all the things that aren't, because I don't want you to use the language, he is putting my life on hold, or my life, he has the power to hold my life. Just by saying those words, you give so much, because all your life, we've got to get really clear on this. It's not all your life, it's that part of your life. And it may have a ripple effect on a lot of your life, but it's not all your life. Okay? He can't control what time you get up, what time you go to bed. He can't control your thoughts. He can't control who you socialize with and what you spend your time focusing on. So it's not all your life. Okay, please. And I know this sounds a little bit pedantic, but it's important, because what you program your head with is the result you're going to get out. So if you're saying things like that to yourself, your body will act as if. Because remember, we're in control of what you put in. So, you know, if for example, if you think about it like food, if you put in like healthy food into your body, you're going to get more energy and power out of your body. Whereas you put in fatty, greasy, high calorie foods, you're going to get low energy, sluggish behavior, and less clarity of thought. So what I'm saying to you here is, if you feed yourself statements like, my life is on hold because of him, then the result is very different to, what are the things I can control in my life right now that I can take forward, and how could I do that? Do you see there's a difference? And I'm not saying it's easy, but I want you to write on Post-it notes and stick them up around your house, the opposite to, you know, the things that you're saying to yourself. Put some empowering phrases up, like I've just mentioned, like, you know, my life is mine to control, or, you know, what can I do today to make things better, or how can I move my life forward today? Just one tiny step, you know, could be something little like changing the furniture around or doing something like that. Right. He's similar to her dad. Great advice through the music and also watching funny films, TV. Yeah, that's very true. I hadn't looked at it from that perspective. Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, I mean, when you're in it, it's very difficult because we get myopic and we get very focused on things. A lot of the time, we don't understand that we can change how we feel very quickly. And it could be body language, but, you know, things we've talked about, 5-star jumps, going for a run. It could be watching a funny TV show. It could be chatting to a friend who makes you laugh or just makes you feel good about yourself and feel supported. It could also be asking yourself a better question. And what I like about that, and what I want for you guys, is it's going to take you down a path. It's not just a 5-star jumps, here I am. It's something that may then bring up some options for you to follow, some actions that will then improve your life and take you on to another point, another opportunity, another door that opens. So do you see how, if you keep moving forward with this, there's ways of ways of controlling your destiny that you are in charge of. And that's what I want from you. I don't want you guys to feel controlled by your exes, because that's not living, that's just surviving. And what I want for you is thriving. I want you to use this not just to get over what's happened, but to blow the bloody doors off and create this amazing future for yourself, which is packed full of all the things you want. Because ultimately, you are the one in charge of your destiny. You're the one in charge of what comes next. You're the one in charge of what happens and who's in your life and opportunities. And it may not feel like that sometimes. And I get that, because when you're going through a breakup and you're being controlled and someone's being very difficult to you, it's very easy to see that as all-consuming, because it can be. But what I'm saying to you is there are ways to pull yourself out and just glimpse the future and glimpse this more exciting life. But the only way that is ever going to happen is if you decide it is. And it doesn't mean you have to be super confident. You have to go out with bags of self-esteem saying, look at me, I'm the bee's knees. No, you can do it in a slowly, step by step, at your own pace, where you feel comfortable way. But you've got to keep moving forward. You've got to keep the momentum. And you've got to believe that ultimately you can be happier. You can be who you want to be. And their controlling behavior, Sarah said, great advice, very relevant to me having to deal with a controlling ex. Yeah, a controlling ex is kind of like a little grey cloud that follows you around, but that's it. Okay, if you choose to see it that way, you can see it as being in a straitjacket. And I've got clients that have seen it that way in the past before they had coaching with me. And now they've unlocked that straitjacket and they're out. They know that there's going to be this little annoying grey cloud potentially that follows them. And some days it's not there. Sometimes the sun shines it out and it's gone. But some days it's a bit cloudier than others. But that doesn't mean it controls everything, because they're still getting on with their lives and they're still creating a future. And what you find is the more you focus on creating your future, the things you can control, the things you want more of in your life and put them into your life, then the less control they have. Do you see? And it's about cutting those ties where you can. You know, there's maybe some areas of your life where you can't completely cut those ties. And I want you to make the difference between can't, as in not because you're giving yourself excuse that you have to let them into your house every day, or that you have to speak to them, or you have to reply to the text, because that's just excuses to keep you stuck. And I'm not being harsh, I'm just trying to show you the difference between that and you have a child with them, so you have to talk about child arrangements. Do you see how they're very different things? And you need to cut the ties that you don't need to have. So the constant messaging, constant responding, you know, the constant sort of answering questions that are just irrelevant to, you know, the necessary things that you might need to talk about. So do you see what I mean? You've got to be true to yourself and really get clear on those things. I think it's really important. But for you, focusing on creating that future, yeah, who do you want to spend more time with? And this is a great time in lockdown, because when we have got time to think about things, let's feed our brain with those more positive things, like who would we want to spend more time with in the next 6 months? Who would that be? If you could choose someone, maybe it's a friend. I know that I've got in touch in lockdown with people I haven't spoken to for years, and some people have reached out to me that I haven't spoken to in years, because you really find out who cares about you. It's not necessarily, obviously, the people you speak to every day, fine, but there might be people in your life that still super really care about you and love you. But you know, in day-to-day life, just contact doesn't really happen, doesn't come up for whatever reason. But when we're in times like this where people are worried about the virus and they want to reach out, I think it's been amazing to see the kind of people and who from your past reaches out and who you want to reach out to as well. So maybe have a think about that. I know yesterday we were talking about writing down all the people in your life that have made a positive impact. Maybe now we can talk about today's step being maybe reaching out to someone that you really care about, but you don't really speak to that much, just to make sure that they know that you're thinking about them during these difficult times. Because actually those acts of kindness that we do, those random acts of kindness that are surprising to other people, come back in bucket loads to you. Maybe not straight away, and that's not a reason to do it, but actually being loving and demonstrating that you care to someone who probably isn't expecting it right now is it's a fun thing to do to start, and it's a kind thing to do. And I think we all need to focus on being kind and loving, especially during these times. So, sorry, my phone is busy, right, today? Anyway, I just wanted to say those messages to you today. I hope it's helped you. I hope you are enjoying the sunshine wherever you are and that you're staying safe. Please do drop me your DMs. Let me know how you're finding these sessions. If there's anything you want me to talk about, please do DM me or email me, sarah@sarahdavidson.com. I'm here for you, and you can do this. I've got it. You've got this for yourself, and I'm here for you too. All right. Mwah. Lots of love, and see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Bye. Bye.